Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gills, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee.
You sure? It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh, yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the office. Welcome to the morning grind. Good to see everybody here. Let's see who we got. Let's see. Let me pause syncing on Dropbox. Maybe that'll give us some higher quality here. I see we're a bit low. Seems like I was syncing something. So, all right, let's see what we got here. Good morning, Stray. Good morning. We've got Tomocrat here and Lynn. Good morning. Zero the Blade and Inner Lights here. Wonderful. Good to see you this morning. Sable Phoenix is also here. Wonderful. So we got a great crew this morning. We are going to be taking a look or continuing our look at By This Axe I Hack. I like that name. And in our looking at different types of hacks for RPGs. So this is an important one. And I know one of Inner Light's favorites. So we were taking a look at sorcery. So I think we should just go ahead and basically jump in today. If you didn't see last night we did Hero Quest. I played through Elf Quest 2, the Elf Quest 2 solo quest. And it was a lot of fun. Oh, hey, let's go ahead and breathe and sip before we get going here. So everybody got your favorite beverage this morning? Let's breathe. 2 deep breaths, deep inhales, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. All together now. Here we go. And sip. There we go. So I was thinking about this. I remember earlier this morning or something like that, because I was thinking, all right, so wait a minute, did I miss something about mana or something like that? And I didn't, because we said that the magicians can cast any spell as often as they wish. But the first casting per day is rolled with advantage or resisted with disadvantage. The second is rolled normally, and the rest are rolled with advantage or with disadvantage or resisted with advantage. Once a magician fails a sorcery test or a character resists the spell, the magician can't cast that spell until they get a full night of rest, roughly 6 hours or so. So you can cast as often as you like, but that's really what's preventing you from, or that's your constraint. Once you fail at one, you can't cast that spell again until you get a full rest. But I noticed that you can also cast spells you don't know. So it was kind of a big part of the magician's side of things, where they were talking about how many spells, which particular magical practice you know, which is kind of like a spell list, and then how many of those spells you know. But you can cast one spell you don't know, per day per level. Okay, so there is a constraint there, a greater constraint. It's always rolled with disadvantage, but then again, it seems like a lot of your spells are going to be rolled with disadvantage. So I was like, that's not a big constraint, because spellcasters are going to be rolling with disadvantage a lot. But you can cast one spell that you don't know from your list per day. Sable says, got some appreciation from some grateful elf maidens for successfully rescuing them. Yes. No, it wasn't an anime, but the elf queen, her attendants were missing, so I had to go down into a dungeon and find them. Being held hostage by an abomination. Lynn says, so they're using advantage and disadvantage in lieu of some source of resource like spell slots or mana points. Right. Innerlight says, I think I've also introduced a house rule where crit failure on a sorcery cast results in weirdness. This seems like the kind of game that would have some weirdness on a critical failed spell roll. Good morning, Robert. Good morning. Okay, and then our sorcery test here, and we've got to roll under, we're trying to roll under our stat here. So hopefully even rolling with disadvantage, hopefully if you're going to be a spellcaster, so you could have up to, see, we were rolling 2d6 plus 4. So you could get up to a 16. Int, wisdom, charisma. So you need a high score, since you're going to be rolling with disadvantage in your spell list of choice. Okay, so we did look at spell effects. I think we went through that. Minions, rituals. And so we were just starting to look at some of the different spell lists. I don't think we need to go through all of these. We do have alchemy. So once again, alchemy is used as kind of the grenadier. So we create magical compounds, potions, and powders. Alchemy spells represent globes, vials, or other containers filled with these strange concoctions. A critical failure on an alchemy spell usually means the character suffers the intended effect. I suppose the emphasis here is on character, that the character would suffer that intended effect. Choking dust, corrosive fluid, explosive powder, flash powder, liquid fire. So you roll, it doesn't sound like you have to prepare these in advance. So alchemy, like quick gadgeteering in GURPS to put together one of these alchemical mixtures. Tomb dust blinds the subject within melee blinds one subject within melee range for 6 rounds. Blind subjects grant advantage or suffer disadvantage. I like luminescent fluid. It's like a glow stick. Medieval glow stick. Gives off a pale, cool light, roughly equivalent to torchlight when shaken vigorously, and lasts 1 hour. Divination spells. Allowing you to glean information. Spells tied to a specific person, place, or thing, like scrying or seeker, requires a physical link, such as hair, nail clippings, saliva, etc., unless the magician knows the subject personally. A critical failure on a divination spell usually provides false information or overwhelms the magician, causing 2d6 psychic damage and preventing them from casting any more divination spells for the rest of the day. So, augury, prediction, intuition, scrying, true sight. The Force. The Force involves using the power of the mind to create physical force. A critical failure of the Force spell usually reflects the energy back on the magician, who suffers 1d4 per level and loses their next turn to act. Battering ram, hold, forceful strikes. Oh, levitates on this one. Living weapon. Oh, thank you for the link to the Discord, Stray. Would love to have you join. Oh, I must have missed that. I believe it was Keith had posted in the news for the grind that Dogmite Games had shut down. I didn't note it. I think I didn't see the notification or something on that one, or it got turned off. But Dogmite, they were makers of custom like dice trays and things like that for RPGs, and they did a lot more too, dice towers and things like that. I talked to them often when we were running Kickstarters. Innerlight says, nope, once you know a spell, you don't have to memorize anything. It basically becomes a use at will ability with the caveats that you mentioned. Divination rolls are one thing I have always, the GM would always roll for the character. Otherwise, they know they're getting good or bad info. Yeah, so like, well, like with this augury spell, the magician can ask one specific question about anything in the present, which the GM must answer truthfully. But if you fail, you don't get bad information. I think the way this was set up here, you won't ever know. You will know that you've successfully cast the spell. There shouldn't be a situation here, which might be less interesting, but there shouldn't be a situation here where you cast the spell incorrectly and don't know. But yeah, but generally, divination spells kind of like searching for secret doors or searching for treasure. So either the spell works or the spell fails and you don't get any kind of information. Shield and shatter. Herbalism. Again, herbalism involves the preparation of palms, ointments, powders, and poultices. Herbalism spells represents jars, vials, or other containers filled with these substances. These spells only affect living beings. A critical failure on an herbalism spell usually means the preparation is toxic and inflicts 2d6 points of damage rather than its intended effect. Again, these critical failures are going to happen quite a bit. And that's pretty rough. 2d6 poison damage, and people only have like con or con plus 2 or sometimes con minus 2 hit points. So critical failure on herbalism and suffering, giving the person 2d6 points of damage, that's rough. But antitoxin, curative draught, healing elixir, love potion, potion of might, granting strength, potion of truth, powder of forgetfulness, pungent salve. Placed under the nose, this foul salve revives the defeated character with maximum hit points for their hit die and grants them advantage when testing con to determine if they are wounded. Sleeping powder, soothing balm. That's true, and there's some psychic damage as well, so the magician might go a little crazy from miscasting divination spells. Yeah, even divination spells. See, the force damage critical failure usually reflects the damage back at the magician, who suffers 1d4 damage per level and loses their next turn to act. Less damage, but losing a turn to act. Divination, critical failure. Oh, critical failure on a divination check. No. So that's where this came in. It said that critical failure on a divination check usually provides false information. So the game master should probably be rolling that, because otherwise you would know it's false. Because you're right, Lynn. Here, there is a way on a critical failure. I think I read that and just forgot. But also, casting that can cause 2d6 psychic damage or overwhelms the magician. So I guess you could do it that way. That well, if you don't want to, if you're going to have the player roll the dice, just say that, well, if on a critical failure, we're not going to worry about false information. You just know you won't cast the spell, but you'll just take 2d6 psychic damage. You'll just take 2d6 psychic damage. Crafting, we will see. Mesmerism manipulates the mind of others. They require eye contact with the subject and no effect on inanimate objects or insensate beings, and constructs are mindless undead. The critical failure on a mesmerism spell usually means the subject forcefully repels the magician's mental influence, rendering the spellcaster unconscious for d6 rounds. Charm. Command, distraction, dominate, fatal visions, forget, illusion, paralytic stare, suggestion. Natural magic. Natural magic deals with animals, plants, in the natural world. Briars and entangle require nearby plants, so they don't normally work indoors. A critical failure on a nature spell means the spell backfires in some way. Harmful spells affect the magician or an ally. Communication and friendship spells enrage their subjects, etc. Get creative. Animal friendship, beast link, briars, entangle, forest shadow. The magician and as many subjects as desired within melee range become invisible as long as they remain stationary. Lasts as long as the magician concentrates. This only works in natural terrain. Elemental is here. Summon elementals. Inner Light says, in my house rules, I introduced a 13th spell practice, Artifice, but it requires alchemy and herbalism as prerequisites. Or Kronos Chiron says, unless ropes were nearby, and then they might work indoors. Do not offend the honey badger. I watched some different videos on the honey badger after that recommendation. Those are crazy. So necromancy. Necromancy involves the manipulation of life, death, and undeath. A critical failure on a necromancy check usually taints the soul. The magician's complexion takes on a pallid cast, and they lose d6 con for the rest of the adventure. The tainted also unnerve children and animals. Does losing all of a particular stat kill you in this? I don't remember if we've read that or not. So we can command undead here. Death touch. Create undead. Turns one or more corpses into skeletons or zombies whose total hit dice equal up to the magician's level. Drain life. False flesh. The magician takes on the magician's appearance, mannerisms, voice of a deceased subject for up to 1 hour by wearing their flayed skin. Oh, that's nice. All other tests, sorcery tests, have disadvantage while this spell is active. Skeletal mount. Physical law. The practice concerns natural forces. Critical failure on physical laws means the spell backfires. Harmful spells affect the magician or an ally. Manipulation spells have the opposite of their intended effect, etc. Control flame, darkness, heat metal, summon fog, tremor. All subjects, friends, and foes within the casting range fall prone. Summoning spells. Summoning involves interacting with demons, devils, and other extraplanar beings, simply demons. A critical failure on a summoning means the magician has made a critical error. Summoned demons are free to act as they please. Attempts to control demons simply infuriate them. Defenses and wards fail, etc. The GM is encouraged to be creative and also cruel. So again, that's going to be a lot of demons. If you got, if you're a summoner, that's going to be a lot of demons that are going to arrive and be out of control. Lynn says, pluses of this magic system, flexible, not a lot of record keeping. Minuses, one necromancer will be pretty much like any other, etc. Innerlight says, I do like this magic system quite a bit, though. Not every magician is a fireball, flinging, lightning bolt, blasting, evocation caster. We saw that in Lamentations as well. Trying to not make everybody just a combat person. Yes, demons being summoned and falling out of control is a common trope for sword and sorcery settings. But my question is it so is it so common here that you wouldn't ever want to be a summoner? 5% is a lot. Well, and it's worse. It's worse than that because it seems like, as we said, that as a caster, you're going to be rolling with disadvantage a lot. It seems like. So if you're rolling at disadvantage and you've got demons, that's going to be happening a lot. It was, even though like there's 2d6 damage, that's going to be happening a lot too. So Arcane Circle creates a circle that demons can't pass or attack through. This lasts 1 minute, but may be made permanent with markings drawn on the floor, in which case it lasts until the magician dies or the circle is broken. Banish demon, commune. Okay, one demon within throwing range is banished to its native dimension. Subjects that have at least twice as many hit dice as the magician are immune to this spell. Commune opens a channel to a powerful entity like a demon prince, elemental lord, demigod, etc., who may be open to hearing what the magician has to say. A critical failure means the entity slays the magician outright. Well, yikes. Let's see. Demonic Pact. One demon within melee range will perform one service for the magician that can take up to 1 year. Until it's done or the demon is released, the magician's maximum hit points are reduced by the demon's hit dice. Summon demons. Summon one or more demons whose total dice equals to double the magician's level and inflicts 1 point of damage on the magician per hit die summoned. Summon demons return to their native dimension after they have performed one service or fight one battle, or for 1 hour if neither happens. Lamentations, spell failure tables, and some of their questionably named supplements would be great to fold into this. Commune, don't bug me, mortal. Yeah, that's not a spell you'd cast all that often. Please do like the stream. That would be great. Lynn says, odd they put what's essentially a teleport spell into the summoning group. Oh, cross the void. The magician steps through the dimensional barriers, traveling up to 500 feet in one action. Let's see. Telepathy. Telepathy spells involve reading the minds and sending thoughts and emotions. They have no effect on inanimate objects or insensate beings like constructs or mindless undead. The critical failure on a telepathy spell usually means the subject forcefully repels the magician's mental influence, rendering the spellcaster unconscious for D6 rounds. I use some of the tables from SS and SS, sharp swords and sinister spells with this game to spice it up a bit. I don't know that one either. So agony, confused, fear, mind probe, possession, read thoughts, send thoughts. Transformation. This lets the magician transform themselves into other things. A critical failure on a transformation spell usually deals 2d6 damage to the subject, leaving them transformed for longer than desired, or results in an awkward or dangerous transformation that can't be dispelled early. Beast form. This is like the D&D druid side of things, I guess. Eyes of the cat, swarm, okay, or a vampire kind of thing. The magician turns into a cloud of bees, bats, bees, birds, etc. for up to 1 hour. Or turning to mist for 1 hour. Transmutation. Open seal, snake staff. Turns a staff within closing range into a serpent for up to 6 rounds, as long as the magician takes no other action. The snake acts independently, has level hit dice, and deals 46 poison damage. So that's the Moses spell. All right, so let's go back up to the table of contents. We had been through characters. We've got, well, we can go through equipment briefly. Equipment looks short, and then let's take a look at combat. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, so let's go to equipment. That looks short. And then into combat. So, all right. Sword and sorcery heroes rarely amass wealth, and when they do, they're quick to lose every coin. Thus, characters are assumed to be regularly going from rags to riches and back again. Rather than tracking coins, BTA classifies things as common, expensive, or lavish. Unless they're broke, characters usually have enough to acquire 2d6 minus 2 common items and 1d3 minus 1 expensive items per adventure, assuming they can find what they want. Roll with advantage if the last adventure was lucrative, or with disadvantage if things have been tough. Lavish items are different. Characters can try to acquire 1 lavish item after each profitable adventure by testing int. Roll with disadvantage if the character acquired a lavish item after the last profitable adventure. Roll with disadvantage. A major windfall may grant advantage or even an automatic success on this roll. So common items. Now we did have gear that it came with, I remember. So repairing armor, arrows, blowgun darts, bucklers, iron spikes, lots of stuff with usage dice here. Basic adventuring kinds of stuff. Expensive items include things like barding, camels, donkeys. Grappling hooks are expensive. Lockpicks are expensive. Medium armor, musical instruments, a stay at a good inn, wine, wooden scroll cases. Lavish items are things like armor repair for relics or artifacts, chariots, coursers, exotic pets, expensive wine, stay at a fancy inn, a trained falcon, or a warhorse. Inner Light says, I think the equipment system is a little too basic here. I'd rather track coins, so I've modified this a bit for my game. And of course, it's not like there aren't a lot of games out there with prices for things and coins, so that seems like an easy thing to do. Characters can carry a number of items equal to their strength without difficulty. Light armor counts as 1 item, medium armor counts as 2 items, and heavy armor counts as 3 items. Shields and 2-handed weapons, including bows and crossbows, count as 2 items each. Objects like arrows, rations, and torches come in bundles. Each bundle is 1 item. A character carrying more than this, disadvantage is being used a lot here. A character carrying more than this is encumbered and has disadvantage on all tests. Carrying more than double this items is impossible, though a strong character may be able to lift much more than this weight for a short while. But you don't double up on disadvantage. You either got it or you don't. So there are a lot of things that can cause it. So I think it seems like a lot of rolling with disadvantage. So this is our usage die here. So it does explain here. Whenever an item with a usage die is used, like when dealing with ammunition like arrows or sling stones, once the battle is over, and don't bother rolling if the character only fired a shot or two, a roll of 1 to 2 means the usage dice is downgraded to the next lower die down the chain. When you roll a 1 to 2 on a d4 usage die, the lower die in the chain, the item is expended, and the character has no more of it. We want to talk about like arrows. We've mentioned before that I think this is kind of questionable. I was interested in the beginning, but for something like arrows, because people don't want to track arrows, but you have to track it. Otherwise, like in D&D, being an archer is too good. Like that's supposed to be the cost. That you're not going to be able to fire this bow every time you want to. There's some constraint on that, and then you're going to have to move into melee range with something. So I think the angry GM, I want to look at that again, or angry DM, whichever one it is, has something on tracking ammunition and things like that. So maybe, okay, after a fight, but why not? But you might not decrement your arrows. I don't know. That's still kind of weird, I think. Like, why not just have, instead of rolling to see whether or not your arrows go down by 1, why not just say, all right, after a fight, mark down 1 usage of arrows? Lynn says the basic framework looks easy to customize. I like that. Yeah, an old Palladium book supplement had literally thousands of weapons and armor for some game stats and costs you can use for any game. That's probably the best implementation of usage dice that I've seen. I mean, this is basically the black hack rules, right? I think this is the same that was there. It's been a while since we've done black hack. Yeah, I agree. A quiver might hold X, medium quiver might hold 2X, and large quiver 3X in weight, cost, and encumbrance. I think I only use usage dice for torches and rations. So resource management isn't often a concern in Sword and Sorcery. But if the GM wants the players to track their resources precisely, check the uses table to determine how many uses a character can get out of an item. So this should be the number of uses here. I think I would just use that. Relics and artifacts. Relics are ancient items, ancient arms and armor of superior quality, usually created by long-dead people whose secrets have been lost to the ages. Relic weapons inflict 1 extra point of damage. Relic armor provides 1 extra point of protection. Relic bucklers and shields can absorb 1 attack per day, reducing the attack's damage by the willer's con without being damaged. Artifacts are relics that also possess unique abilities. GMs will have to create their own unique artifacts, and no two should be identical. Relics and artifacts are priceless, or near enough they won't be found for sale. Oh, you're working on, got some iced coffee cubes right now? Oh, I should have made some coffee this morning. I needed some water, but. Greg says, I call it a supply die and only do it when I need supplies to be part of the problem. Which makes more sense with torch because you might in time burn the torch to the point it can't be used. By this axe I hack, BTA is heavily based on black hack, but is geared specifically towards sword and sorcery play. All right, so we've got actions, we've got rounds. Anyone caught by surprise can't perform actions on the first round of combat. On that round, surprise characters have disadvantage again. So on that round, surprised characters have disadvantage on defense tests, and surprised enemies grant advantage on attack tests. Movement and distance. I noticed that we've got 5 abstract ranges to measure distance. This is different than what we've had before. Melee range, closing range, throwing, shooting, and viewing. On their turn, a character can move anywhere within closing range and perform one action. They can perform their action at any stage of the move. Alternatively, a character can instead forego their action and move anywhere within throwing range. Mounted characters can move farther, traveling up to throwing range if they also perform an action, or up to shooting range if they don't. The system is designed to support narrative theater of the mind style of play. Use the distances table to guide when converting existing movement rates and measures, or just spell ranges and areas. So we got melee range, which is 5 feet. So basically you're engaged at that point. Closing range, throwing range, shooting range, and then viewing range. Initiative. All characters test initiative by making a reflex save. For that battle, those who succeed act before their enemies, and those who fail act after their enemies. Within each group, characters act in any order they wish, from high to low roll if necessary. Despite these rules, combatants using ranged weapons can attack before melee combatants who have to move because they aren't within melee range of their targets. Characters who roll a critical success act before everyone else and have advantage on their first test. Characters who roll a critical failure act after everyone else and have disadvantage on their first test. Okay, hit dice. Hit dice are D8s, pretty classic. Optionally, the GM can simply assign weak enemies 2 hit points per hit die, average 4 hit points per die, and so forth. When a character attacks an enemy, they make an attack test, a strength test for melee attacks, or dex for ranged attacks, unless you've got finesse. When a character is attacked by an enemy, they make a defense test. Again, test strength for melee attacks or dex for ranged attacks. The GM may alter the stat used by a particular attack or defense test depending on circumstances. Remember the powerful opponent's rule when making these tests. If we were using your hex boards, Heath, I think I'd put everything on the same hex as closing. Base combat is melee. Next hex over is throwing. And the hex beyond that shooting. Yeah, I think that would be a good system. Yeah. That's how I would use it. I've still got to see if I can find a way to print those on demand. Get them back into action. Let's see. So, melee, projectile weapons, fighting, damage. Okay, so characters inflict damage based on their class. That's right. So we were class damage here. Enemies inflict damage based on their hit die as per the damage table. GMs can roll dice or use the flat values, roughly averages. The damage values on the damage table are for defaults. GMs are encouraged to create enemies that deal different amounts of damage and or other unique effects. The enemies section includes a large extended damage table that goes to 20 hit dice. When a character or enemy takes damage, it's subtracted from their hit points. Characters and enemies are defeated at 0 hit points, but this means something different for each. So here is our hit die, and here is our damage for our bad guys. In BTA Raw, players are making all the rolls, attack and defense and combat. So the GM doesn't make any rolls in combat. Well, it said the GM could roll for damage, right? But yeah, so this is player-facing combat rolls. Critical results. Mark Tassin was talking about that on the design blog for the Cool Name RPG the other night, going over pros and cons of all the player-facing roles. Critical results. When a character rolls a critical success on an attack test or a critical failure on a defense test, the attack inflicts double damage. I always wonder if that's double dice damage or not. I typically always read that as double dice damage. When a character rolls a critical success on a defense test or a critical failure on an attack test, the attacker opens themselves up and gets struck by the defender. Roll damage against the attacker. This doesn't count as an action by the defender, who can act normally on their turn. The supplement introduces some optional rules to change that up again. And yet, the GM can roll for damage or just use averages. Characters using two-handed melee weapons or melee weapons in each hand deal +2 points of damage per attack. Characters using a melee weapon in one hand and a buckler or shield in the other may deal +1 point of damage per attack, but this stops them from using the buckler or shield defensively until their next turn. These rules don't apply to unarmed combat. Armor reduces an attack damage by its protection, as shown in the armor table. Bucklers grant advantage on 1 melee defense per round. Shields grant advantage on 1 melee or ranged defense test per round. Okay, so shields grant advantage to defense. Characters can sacrifice their armor to reduce the damage dealt by a physical attack by an amount equal to their own constitution. This lowers the armor's protection by 1 point or destroys a buckler or a shield. Armor is damaged beyond repair if its protection is reduced below 0. So we've got light, medium, and heavy. So that's what it does. So I don't see any other thing that's doing. So you have to choose to use, okay, I'm going to use the armor. It reduces it by 1. And it reduces it by your constitution score. This is when I go back to the old school and get out the D100 and hope a 100 comes and the phrase split in twain happens. Like roll master rolling. Full defenses. Say all out attacks. All out attack, gain advantage on attack rolls and damage rolls. Okay, so it's not doubling, but it's giving you advantage on damage rolls. I do like that it's not always just the D20 that's getting advantage here. But they have disadvantage on defense test and reflex saves. Full defense. Ongoing damage. Okay, so a character who reaches 0 hit points is defeated, unconscious, and out of the action for the rest of the fight. Once combat ends and the heroes are out of danger, an ally can revive a character. If not, the character recovers when the next scene begins. Once they do, the character rolls 1 hit die and heals that many hit points. So they're hit 0, they're unconscious, and then after a combat, you can go be revived. Assuming there's somebody around to revive you. You get back 1 hit die, but you test con to avoid being wounded. If the character is defeated more than once in the same adventure, the second and all subsequent contests to avoid being wounded have disadvantage. Wounded characters have disadvantage on all tests for the rest of the adventure. If a wounded character is wounded again, they're knocked out of the action for the rest of the adventure or killed, depending on whether the character death is on the table. This varies by group. These rules are designed to encourage heroics, but not stupidity. Characters can still be killed if they do anything that would guarantee their death, like jumping off a tall cliff or into an active volcano. Unlike characters, enemies are killed when they reach 0 hit points. However, a character using their bare hands or non-lethal weapons may choose to knock an enemy unconscious instead of killing them. Inner Light says, combat in this game is much more tactical than other tabletop RPGs because armor only reduces damage a little bit. Most players avoid combat when possible. And if they go into combat, they avoid the dual wielders and two-handed heavy hitters. Combat maneuvers. Okay, this is covering disarm, grapple, shove, trip, throw. Lesser foes fight characters in groups called mobs. A mob is treated like a single enemy in combat. The member of the mob always have 1 hit point each, regardless of their hit die. When a character hits a mob, they automatically defeat 1 member on a regular success or 2 members on a critical success. Don't bother rolling for damage. This doesn't apply when dealing attacks and spells that already affect multiple targets. Mobs can attack 1 target for every 2 members, but each mob can only be attacked once per round. Each target can only be attacked once per round. The character attacked by a mob makes 1 defense test rolled with disadvantage. If the attack hits, the damage is doubled. If the attack misses, it still deals 1 point of damage that ignores protection from fatigue, minor cuts, etc. A large enough mob is always dangerous. So a mob can attack one target for every 2 members, but each target can only be attacked once per round. Okay. The character attacked by a mob makes 1 defense test rolled with disadvantage. If the attack hits, the damage is doubled. If the attack misses, it still deals 1 point of damage. So even on a miss, you're being hit by a mob. If battle is going badly for a group of enemies, we may have to test morale. All right, how do we heal? Okay, characters can recover hit points in various ways. They cannot regain more than their maximum hit points. Characters can never go below 0. Okay, always start at 0 when healing characters who have been defeated. Wounded characters are wounded for the rest of the adventure, even if healed to maximum hit points. They remain wounded until their next adventure begins, at which time they have recovered. Okay, here's resting. If characters take a few minutes to rest, bind their injuries, or slack their thirst with some wine or water, then roll 1 hit die and recover that many hit points. Characters can do this a maximum number of times per day equal to their level. Additionally, characters who get a full night's sleep roll a number of hit dice equal to their level and recover that many hit points. Wounded characters and those who sleep get disadvantaged when rolling to recover hit points. All right, simple. Right, if you're surrounded by 20 goblins, even if you're a powerful warrior or whatever, you're going to get scratched up a bit. Being wounded just means you have disadvantage on your rolls, right? Yeah, I believe that was the case. You have disadvantage on all rolls if you're wounded. But we're not ever dealing with, like, okay, once you're wounded, what about being encumbered? Both of them are just disadvantage, and disadvantage doesn't stack, right? Mounts and horsemanship. Mass combat. To determine who wins a battle, one player selected by the group rolls 1 or more d12s and checks the mass combat table. Factors that can affect the outcome of the battle include more troops, many more troops, C, better quality troops, a cunning general, mounted cavalry if the terrain allows, mounted artillery, etc. The players get 1 advantage simply because their characters are taking part in the battle. They also get 1 advantage for every factor that favors their side and 1 disadvantage for every factor that favors their enemies. In this unique instance, advantage and disadvantage stack, so the player may wind up rolling 3 or more d12s and using the best or worst of the lot. Oh, so we're not adding up. Okay, so you're adding advantages and disadvantages, adding d12s, but you're just counting the highest d12. Going from crushing defeat to decisive victory. Once you resolve the outcome of the battle, each player rolls 2d6 and checks the battle results to determine the character's fate. Roll with advantage if the character's side suffered light casualties, or with disadvantage if they suffered heavy casualties. So here's like light casualties, heavy casualties. Well, you could be killed. But then again, you can have a lot of bad stuff happen to you on critical failing your spell casting rolls. So you can die in the middle of battle here. Random encounters, reactions from NPCs. We're not doing the standard 1d6 per 10 feet. So it's 1d6 at 10 feet, 3d6 at 20 feet, 6d6 at 30 feet, 10d6 at 40 feet, and instantly fatal at 50 feet or more. A successful reflex save halves the damage suffered or allows a defeat but survival at 50 feet or more if the GM approves. Landing on jagged rocks or spikes deals an extra d6 damage and prevents characters from attempting the reflex save. Ugh. When landing on a forgiving surface like deep water, dense foliage, or packed snow, a successful reflex save completely negates damage. I've house ruled that a disadvantaged roll cannot be disadvantaged again, and any disadvantaged attempt that would be disadvantaged again automatically fails. Okay, well, I think that was, yeah, ordinarily in this game, I think it said we're not stacking disadvantages. That the mass combat was something special. But any disadvantaged attempt that would be disadvantaged again automatically fails. That makes things a lot worse. Because then if you're wounded and you're encumbered, you're going to automatically fail stuff. So you're going to have to not be encumbered. Although someone did fall from 15,000 feet and managed to walk away from their landing site. Yeah, you hear about those crazy falls. But I'm for not having to account for that in a game. Fear, fire, languages, luck, poisons, traps, and hazards. All right, and then we're back to sorcery. So our enemies here. So we do have a bestiary, which is not something we had in Lamentations. I've seen that as something that is often criticized. Although you're supposed to be making up monsters there, but having a bestiary would be nice. So extended damage table, fear tests. So here is what ordinary men. Ordinary men, we shouldn't have ordinary men here. We're supposed to have normal man. And thought about that in a while. A normal man. I wonder if there's some type of, if not a GIF or something like that about the normal man. So a archer, for instance, has a heavy bow, 1d6, 3 against one target shooting range, and a short sword, 1d4 versus a target at melee range. Armor light, exclamation point. Plus 1 hit die, 1 hit point per hit die. Oh, so you're not... Okay, hit die 1 over here. So armor doesn't work the same way for the bad guys. Plus 1 hit point per die. I guess that's easier than having to track the different points of armor. So aim, disadvantage against their ranged attacks, recharge. A cultist is 1 hit die. The hit die was D8, remember. 1d4 damage against one target, melee or throwing range. Fanatic never needs to test morale. Right, yeah, that's... Yeah, every monster is supposed to be unique, right? The supplement expands the spells practices bestiaries quite a bit, as well as introducing a few more classes. Yeah, do we have damage for fish? Oh, so Banes of the Earth has a big bestiary in it? I haven't looked. I looked up that one. I haven't downloaded it yet. It seems like it won a bunch of awards or was nominated for a bunch of awards and stuff. I know people here like it, so it might be one to look at. So, okay, so this is what our bestiary looks like here. So here are monsters. Basilisks. Giant bat. So a Cyclops is hit die 13. Huge club 3d8 14 versus d3 targets melee range. Thrown boulders 3d8 14 versus one target shooting range. Giant stride moves at the speed of an animal or mount. Lots of monsters here. So here was skeleton I saw. 1d6 bones. Skeletons take half damage from edged or piercing weapons. They're 1 hit die. Mindless, immune to mesmerism and telepathy spells. Undead, immune to diseases, drugs, poison, suffocation, and spells that only affect living beings. Is this the Lost Age primer? So this is the world stuff. Trapped between ice age. The Lost Age is a primitive time lost to modern history. Trapped between ice ages, the world of the Lost Age is an almost primeval landscape dotted with pockets of civilizations, kingdoms, nations, and city-states, all trying to carve out a place for themselves and their people. Surrounding them is a vast and unforgiving wilderness teeming with danger and littered with the fallen ruins of an ancient empire, of mighty sorcerer lords and the remnants of older and darker civilizations inimical to mankind and best left forgotten. Generating random locations, major cities, the bitter north, coastal west, upstart west, the burning south, the near east, distant east, miscellaneous locations. Generating random adventures. Backstories, archer backstories, barbarian backstories, captain backstories. Whoa. Is this like all of the different types of human bad guys? Or people, I guess, that have to be bad guys, but everybody in the bestiary? Druid backstories. Or actually, I think some of these are PCs as well. Warlock hacks. Oh, so here's, okay. Random campaign builder tries to capture as many sword and sorcery tropes as possible. I've heard they're doing a longer supplement for the system with a fleshed out campaign setting. The backstories are for each class. Okay. Okay, so if you prefer a game where high rolls are better, use this rule. To successfully test a stat, the player must roll its test value or more on a D20. A stat's test value equals 22 minus the stat. For example, a stat of 10 has a 10 test value. This gives you the same odds as trying to roll under the stat. So because we're not doing bonuses. Bonuses allows you to both have a high stat and rolling high be good. But if you want to roll high, then you need lower stats. So that's allowing you to do that. Both sides roll. If you don't want a player-facing game where players make most of the rolls, use the opposed test rule on all contested actions. Or you can save this for specially dangerous NPC adversaries. Either way, keep it simple. Assume NPC stats equal 10 plus half their hit die unless otherwise noted. Okay, starting with resolve. Yes, that was the meta. It wasn't exactly a meta currency, but it was the thing that allows you to adjust your dice rolls. There's wealth options. Enhanced lethality. If you want a deadlier game, let characters die rather than be defeated when they reach 0. If that's too harsh, let defeated characters test con. If they succeed, the character is alive but wounded. If they fail, the character dies. Lower hit dice. Characters in BTA have higher hit dice than they do in classic, basic, or advanced or expert versions of the world's most popular role-playing game. Because BTA characters don't gain extra hit points for having high stats, this is less of an issue than it might seem. Still, if you want BTA characters to be a little bit more in line with their BX counterparts, step down their hit die by 1 die type. For example, sorcerers would have a hit die of D4 instead of D6. Small weapons, optional advancements, slow advancement, past level 10. If you want to create your own classes, the ones in BTA were created using a 14 character points. Okay, it's great that they put this in here because this is what you were talking about Inner Light yesterday. If you pay 0 points for D6 hit dice and con -2. 6 starting hit points. 1 point for go up to the D8 or 2 points for the D10. You pay 0 points for no armor, 1 point for light and bucklers, 2 points for light and medium armors, bucklers and shields, or 3 points for all of it. Attack damage, you pay 0 points for D4, D2 damage, 2 points for D6, D3, or 4 points for D8, D4 damage, the maximum possible without special features. You pay for special features using the cost provided in the special features section. For example, the multiple attacks special feature costs 2 points. It's not hard to create a broken character with the right combination of special features. Try to resist the urge to do so. So we'll let you break it. Example, the Gladiator, the Scald. So here's our point values for our special abilities. Command Corruption. Oh, that's a -2. Eastern Horsemanship. Extra attacks. That's 1 point. I like this. Also gives you a reference for all of the abilities. There were a lot of them. And then, okay, some other places to go out and look for inspiration. Sword and Planet, Sword and Sorcery, honorable mention. All right. Well, we've been going for about an hour here. So I think this, and we sort of wrapped up by this axe I hack. Interesting. I'm glad it was recommended. Other games could do with systems like this for more added fun. So Interlight also said that there was the one that was based on There and Hack Again for Epic Fantasy. We might have to check that out. All right. Well, I'm going to see if I can do yard work today. It may be raining again. I heard it raining not too long ago. I hope that everybody else has a fantastic weekend. Have a great day. Go forth, be productive, be creative, and grind on. Please do hit the like button. I will see you later. Bye, everybody.